Tight end is definitely not. I mean, you talk about stuff that's off the radar in this draft. Tight end isn't it? I mean, I feel like it's just not anywhere near the radar, just in terms of like, because there's not a Kyle Pitts out there, right? There's not like an elite prospect that people are thinking about using a top 10 or top 15 pick on. Your top 5: Jake Ferguson, Greg Dulich, Cade Otton, Garrett Pierce, and James Mitchell. Break down your top 5, why you like those guys, and Wilson, if you love, hate, or want to drag Emory's tight end rankings, by all means, follow up on it.
Well, I feel like Ferguson is the same guy. Like if you told me that was, a tight end 10 years ago at Wisconsin, I would be like, yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's exactly who it is. I remember him playing with Russell Wilson. Like all their tight ends are built, look, and play the same.
Yeah, great blocker, slow moving, good red zone target. Like, yeah,
it's the same guy, and so he's perfect. He's a really good player. And he was just outstanding. I was surprised at Greg Dulcich's tape, because I kept saying, and I didn't want to jump to hyperbole, but after the second game, I'm like, all right, I'm not tripping. This dude is like George Kittle. He is a George.
Hold on
Kittle
now, wait a second. You think he can block?
I think he could block well enough. Like you don't have to be Orlando Pace. You just have to be able to get in the way for about 2 seconds, and then that's all you need.
Okay,
right?
he could do that.
Well, and like to be fair too, like if you're coming out of Iowa as a tight end, I mean, even Noah Fant like got some credit for blocking. He's like, he's not as good as Kittle, but he can block, right? I mean, like if you're coming out of Iowa as a tight end, you've just spent so much like time over the last 3 years blocking that you just kind of got better at it, like just because that's just Ferentz ball. I mean, that's just how it is.
And I see Dulcich more as an H-back, so more of a move piece. So you could kind of help him out by not putting him on the line. My number one in line though is Cade Otton out of Washington. So I'm a big fan of him. I feel like he was criminally underutilized at Washington. I don't know why they just didn't throw him the football, but blocking, he's solid. Pierce was someone that I got introduced to at the East-West Shrine Bowl, and I'm watching. I was like, man, who's this receiver? And then I look at the roster. I'm like, oh, that's a tight end from UAB. I remember him from week 0 when they were beating the brakes off Jacksonville State, and I thought that was a receiver because he wore 20. Then I interview him, and I'm like, man, this dude look like Travis Kelce. He runs like Kelce. He looks like Kelce. He's from Kansas City. I'm like, all right, bro. Like, y'all got to be related somewhere. But he was like, nah. I love his game, and that's who I want to be. He was out there baking those linebackers, those safeties. He's someone that's underrated. He's my number one flex guy. And James Mitchell's another one that's vastly underrated out of Virginia Tech that can really move. So you look at this class. I think this is a deep tight end class. But even though there's no Kyle Pitts, but there's a bunch of guys that's going to become matchup problems all throughout the game week because of what they can do running the football, running with the ball and running routes to get open. So I love the tight end class.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good starting on day 2. And
it's just sort of the same kind of theme as really the whole draft, right? Like there's not an elite player, but it's a nice deep class with some like there's not this whole draft class just doesn't have the standout elite talent. And maybe this is a COVID thing where, guys were, you opt out, you don't, like you can, I don't know. There's more guys elite in this draft, but not as many high end talents.
If you were elite, you came out last year.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's what I was trying to get at. And you said it better than me.
The only names,
yeah, Wilson, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. The Emory didn't mention my guy, Trey McBride, who's my tight end 1. I love Trey McBride. Jeremy Ruckert reminds me a lot of Cade Otton, and that he was criminally underutilized at Ohio State. And then I'm surprised you didn't have Jelani Woods on here. He feels like an Emory Hunt type of guy. UVA, transfer, Oklahoma State wide receiver. Didn't play well over the second half of the season, but I found out he was injured. He turned his high ankle sprain against Wake. I think he's going to be a good football player as well.
Him and Nebraska's Austin Allen, both are legit oak trees. Like Allen is 6'8", and Woods is 6'7". And when you're that tall, you kind of lumber. I know he ran whatever he ran at the
or 6'1", I think.
Yeah, everybody ran fast at Indy. You know what I'm saying? So we got some questions about that track out there in Indy.
Come on.
But
now.
When we talk about him playing fast, I just feel like it's hard for those taller guys. They become one-dimensional. Hey, man, stand your big, out there and just go play jump ball out there. So he has to be a little bit better with his pad level. So does Austin Allen out of Nebraska. And McBride is like my number 5 H-back. This is a really good tight end group. I can't stress that enough. I like him more as an H-back as opposed to inline. I feel like his blocking is a bit inconsistent. and I don't want to waste time with him trying to fight through a defensive end. Just push him back a little bit as an H-back, put him on the move, get him out in the route where he can do damage.
All right.
Okay. I'm lost in my rundown. What am I supposed to, what name am I supposed to talk about?
Our guys.
Yeah, your guy. Yeah. Sorry. I got Craig Calcetero, who writes for covers baseball for like NBC Sports.
You got
I got confused by buyer beware. Anyway, your guy, who you pounded the table for?
Jalen Watermeyer, man. Listen, I know he ran a 9 in the 40-yard dash. I know that, right? I know he didn't. I know people love sharing his RAS. Is all red, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you watch Texas A&M play, the dude is open. He catches the football. Kind of reminds me of a former Texas A&M tight end, that we've seen all throughout the the NFL and has success in Bennett, right?
Oh yeah.
Kind of players like Bennett, and so I feel like that's the same thing. The only thing that worries me, and I was disappointed to see it when I watched him on film, I was like, bro, you got to have at least some pride in blocking, some. Like at some point, you got to get tired of getting your chest exposed, right? But in terms of running routes, getting open, that's why I didn't even bother putting him, as an inline tight end or even an H-back. I have him as a flex, which is a bigger wide receiver. So it's like, all right, just flex him out. Don't even ask him to block. Maybe, wall off a lighter, strong safety or something like that. But as far as catching the football and getting open over the middle of the field, that's what he does. And I think he's going to be successful at that. So I'm willing to ignore the bad 40, the all red RAS, ignore all that. I'm going to just gamble on the football talent that I watched on film.
And what about a buyer beware for you?
Grant Calcaterra, not because of his talent, not because he can get open. He's tremendous. I worry about the concussions. And, he's had a bunch. Remember, he retired.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. I do remember that.
Came back.
He played with Kyler.
Yeah, and so he retired from Oklahoma, sat out, and then came back to play at SMU. Did really well, but you always wonder in the back of your mind if he's one hit away from not playing again. And I don't want to see that. I don't be watching the game live and that happens. So I think he may go undrafted because of it.
I generally. Who was it that retired? Borland, the other guy that retired recently.
That's right, Chris Borland. That was about 5 or 6 years ago now.
San Francisco.
No, I'm talking about there's somebody who retired in college and then came back and then was like in the draft. I can't remember who it was.
I don't know who that was.
I generally have a policy where I don't draft anyone who retired from college football.
Right.
And I mean, I'm not trying to make light of concussions or anything. It's just like if somebody was willing to walk.
No, I'm laughing that you have draft policies. That's what I was laughing at.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have many policies around this household, Wilson.
But that's the
draft
top
policy
of the
where we don't draft anyone who retired. All right, your sleeper Isaiah Johnson-Mack and your small school standout Andrew Ogletree. Break down those two guys.
Yeah, Isaiah Johnson-Mack. The name may sound familiar to a lot of people that watch Pac-12 football because he was a wide receiver at Washington State. Then he transferred out of Washington State, ended up being a tight end. He went to a bunch of places. He left Washington State as a receiver, goes to Bowling Green and plays linebacker, edge rusher, and was excellent. Then he transfers from there, goes to Saginaw Valley State, and ends up at tight end. And he was phenomenal at tight end. So he went down to the College Gridiron Showcase, and he was looking like a legit wide receiver running routes during one-on-ones against safeties and linebackers. So he's someone that definitely checks all the boxes medically. He's a core special teamer from day one because he also returned kicks as well. But to go from receiver, power 5 receiver, to group of 5 edge rusher, to D2 tight end prospect, that's someone you want to, he's going to find a spot on the 53 in my opinion. And Ogletree was someone that really stood out on film, but also stood out at the Hula Bowl. He was an MVP there. He had a touchdown or two, and someone is a taller guy, but he really covers a lot of ground when he runs routes. So I love the savvy he has for a taller guy being able to get in and out of his breaks. So someone that is trending in the right direction because of his postseason and checking all those boxes from All-Star game, testing well. So he's building good momentum going into the draft.